Greetings, I'm Professor K, and in this short video presentation we're going to see how we go about creating a full install of Server 2016 using a VirtualBox. To begin this installation, I'm going to go to the internet and I'm going to download a fresh installation of VirtualBox getting the latest edition. To do this, I'm going to open up my browser and I'm going to type in download VirtualBox, and I'm going to click on the first link that's going to take me out to the Oracle site to where I can download VirtualBox. Now you want to be sure to download the correct version for the operating system you're currently using. You have a choice between Windows, Mac, and Linux distributions. Once the download for VirtualBox has completed, I'm going to go to my download folder and I'm going to find that download. I'm then going to go into the download folder itself. I'm going to find the package. I'm going to right click on it, and there I'm going to select Run as Administrator, and that's going to begin the installation process. Now on this first window, we're going to go ahead and just say Next. We're going to leave the defaults here, and again we're going to leave the defaults. We're going to go ahead and allow the networking interfaces to be installed, and we're going to select Install. Once the installation has completed, you can go ahead and click on Finish, and you'll now have a shortcut up on your desktop to which you can use to launch a VirtualBox. Now that we have VirtualBox installed, we're ready to download a fresh installation of Server 2016, the ISO. To do this, I've opened up Google and I've just typed in Download Server 2016 ISO. I'm going to hit Enter. And on this next page, we're going to select the first option, which is for Windows Server 2016. And I'm going to be taken out to the Microsoft Evaluation Center, where I will be able to download that ISO that I need. So we're just going to go ahead and make sure that we're selecting Windows Server 2016. Select the radio button for the ISO. And now we're just going to say Continue. And on this next page, you're going to fill out your information. When you say Continue, you'll be taken over to the download site where you can get your fresh installation of Server 2016 ISO. Now once the download for Server 2016 has completed, you can go ahead and open up your VirtualBox. Go on up to the top there, click on New, and you're going to give this a user-friendly name, and you're going to pull down the window and you're going to select Server 2016, the 64-bit edition. I've called my installation Server 2016 Full Install, but you're free to name it anything you want. I'm now going to go ahead and say Next. I'm going to go ahead and leave the default RAM allocation. I'm going to say Next. I'm now going to create a virtual hard disk now. Select that option. Say Create, and I'm going to select the default for VDI. Select Next. And I'm going to allow the hard disk to be dynamically allocated. I'm going to say Next. I'm going to leave the default for the 50 gig installation of the hard drive. Say Next. And now I am ready to begin the actual installation of Server 2016. To begin the creation of Server 2016, I'm just going to double click on the virtual disk that we created. That's going to go ahead and launch. And now it wants me to give it the location where it can find that ISO that we downloaded. To do this, I'm going to click on this folder icon. That's going to take me over to where I can browse for the download location for my Server 2016 ISO image. I'm going to double click it, and now I'm going to click on the Start button, which will begin the installation process. On this first window, we're prompted for the language we want to use for the installation. We're also prompted for our time and currency format, and we're prompted for the keyboard layout. I'm going to go ahead and say Next. I'm going to go ahead and click on the Install Now button. On this next window, we have to be sure that we select the correct installation type. We want to make sure that we select Windows Server 2016 Standard with the desktop experience. The first option is how they're now calling or classifying Core. They just call it Windows Server 2016 Standard. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I got the correct option selected, and I'm going to click on Next. I'm now going to accept the license agreement and click Next. I'm going to go ahead and click on a custom install and not make any changes, and I'm going to click Next. This starts the actual installation of all the copying of files and we can sit back, go get a cup of coffee, and in about 10 or 15 minutes, the installation will restart a couple of times, and then when it finishes, we'll be prompted for our complex password that will allow us to log on to Server 2016. The installation continues on with installing the updates, and when it's all done, it'll finish up and it will reboot. And here we go with the restart. I'm going to go ahead and click on the Restart Now option, and when we come back up, we will have our installation for Server 2016. I should mention that if you're prompted to press any key to continue on with the installation, do not. The installation has already been installed, and once it finds the installation files, it will boot all by itself. This is the second restart. We're now going to be prompted for the built-in administrator account's password. So I've gone ahead and typed in a complex password, and now I'm going to go ahead and scroll on down over here on my right and click Finish. It's going to finalize settings, and it's going to give me a desktop. We're now ready to log on to our installation of Server 2016, and to do this, we're going to send a Control-Alt-Delete message by going to Input, selecting Keyboard, and then saying Insert Control-Alt-Delete. Once that Control-Alt-Delete message has been completed, we're going to go ahead and type in our administrator password. I'm now going to go ahead and hit the arrow and begin the log-on process. The first time you log on, Windows will take a little while to build your profile and to set up your desktop, so you have to be patient. The screen will go dark, but that's okay. Just let it continue on with installing what it has to install, and when it's done, it'll give you a desktop. Server 2016 has given us our desktop. I'm going to go ahead and say no to network discovery. And now the server manager is going to go ahead and start up. While you're waiting for that, you can go ahead and set the time on the machine to make sure that it's correct so that everybody gets the same timestamp. To do this, I'm going to right click on the clock and I'm going to select Adjust Date and Time. Now once you've selected the date and time, just go ahead and select your time zone and it should do everything else automatically for you. So as you see, we have the time set automatically, so I'm going to pull down the time zone and I'm going to select my location here. I'm going to scroll on down and everything else looks like it should, so I'm going to go ahead and just close this out, and in just a moment my time will be properly set. Now we don't have to worry about the server manager at this time, so I can go ahead and close that out. Now to get this machine to go full screen up inside of VirtualBox, I'm going to need to install the VirtualBox guest editions. If they don't automatically install, I'm going to go to Devices and I'm going to select Insert the Guest Edition CD image. Now that I have scheduled the guest editions for installation, I need to go to File Explorer, and I need to go to, close out this extra window, this PC, and over here I'm going to find the CD drive, and I'm just going to double click it. Here it's going to ask me which installation I want to move on with, and I'm going to select the 64-bit version, and that's going to start the installation. I'm going to go ahead and say Next, say Next, say Install, and now the guest editions will install. Now what this does, it allows the screen for VirtualBox to go full width and height, and allows you to do things like copy and paste. You can connect USB drives, you can share folders, you get access to your other resources on your host machine that you will not have access to otherwise. Go ahead and just install everything that it asks you to accept, and in just a moment it will install the guest editions, allowing us to have greater ease of access between this virtual machine and our host machine. Once the guest editions are installed, it's going to want to do a reboot. Go ahead and let that happen, let it come back up, and then we'll make a couple of more adjustments. The reboot has completed. We're now ready to go up and click on Input, go to Keyboard, and send that Control-Alt-Delete one more time. Again, it's going to want our administrator password to log on. I've now told it to go ahead and complete the process of logging me back on, and we're back to our desktop. Now VirtualBox should automatically take you to full screen, and there it goes. So now we're at full screen. I'm going to go ahead and close out the server manager. We don't need that yet. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and adjust our RAM. This machine is not being very responsive, so I want to go ahead and tell it to shut down. And what we're going to do is go into the settings, and we will increase the amount of RAM to allocate for this machine. Now, depending on how much RAM you have on your machine, I have 16 gigabytes, will determine how much RAM you can allocate. To do this, I'm going to go into the VirtualBox Manager. I'm going to right click on the installation. I'm going to select Settings, and now I'm going to go to System. Here I see that I have currently 2048 megabytes of RAM. I'm going to go ahead and increase this to 5 gigabytes. And that should make the server installation, this virtual machine, much more responsive. Let's go ahead and check that out. So I'm going to go ahead and select Start for my Server 2016 virtual install, and we'll see how much more quicker it starts to respond. So you're going to have to think about doing this if your machines are not being responsive, or if they're taking too long to boot up, or if you get that black screen and it just won't log on in a timely manner. Try increasing the RAM if you can afford it. So already I see that the machine is much more responsive, so I'm going to go ahead and send that Control-Alt-Delete one more time. I'm now going to type in my administrator password, and I'm going to now complete the logon process. So just by increasing the amount of RAM for this server to 5 gigs, I have been able to improve the performance and the response of this virtual install. And that, again, is something you may want to consider if you're not happy with the machine and the way it is responding. That's going to conclude this short video presentation on how we go about creating a virtual install of Server 2016 with the desktop experience. Now, if you have any questions or you have any concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out and contact your instructor, and I'll see you in my next video.